Good morning. Today's topic is on biostatistics. Learning outcomes. Define and describe various statistical terms. Explain the different methods of sampling for study designs. Distinguish the various types of variables, normal distribution, skewed distribution, and tests of significance. Contents. These are the following contents. So, coming to definition of statistics. Statistics is a science that deals with collection, organizing, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of information that can be stated numerically. For example, if you are doing your research, first thing is you will prepare a protocol, then you will collect information through the questionnaire, then you will organize the same data in Excel sheet. Then you will go for analysis either through SPSS or any other software. Then you will interpret in the result. Then if you want to present or if you want to submit any report, you will present in the information format. So this is nothing but how you do your research. Collection of data, organizing, analysis of data, interpretation and presentation. So application of this in human study or animal study, it's nothing but biostatistics. Coming to the application of biostatistics in studying magnitude of health problem, that is prevalence, incidence, that is nothing but magnitude. Then in investigating the basic factors underlying ill health, causes, effect. For example, smoking causes lung cancer. We don't know whether it is true or not. Through the help of biostatistics, you can prove whether smoking really causes lung cancer or not. In overcoming uncertainties like diagnostic, therapeutic, prognostic test. For example, if you want to diagnose COVID-19, we will use some tests and we don't know how exactly it will detect the virus. So through the help of biostatistics, you can check the validity of the test. In assessing the reliability and validity of tools, that is your questionnaire, whether it is valid, whether it is assessing what you intended to assess. So through the help of biostatistics, you can check the reliability of the questionnaire or tool. And mainly in critical appraisal of medical research. Statistical terms like population, parameter, sample, statistics. Population refers to the things, objects, people which we have interest at particular time. For example, students in school, workers in factory, inpatients in hospital. Coming to parameter, summary value or characteristics of the population. Sample refers to the subset of the portion of the population. Example, selection of students in school, a group of workers in factory, selection of some inpatients in hospitals. Then statistics. It's a summary value or characteristics of the sample used to making inference about population. Coming to law of statistical regularity. The law of statistical regularity means that a moderately large number of items chosen at random from large population will have an average of same characteristics of population. This is our assumption. If you choose, a, because if you want to study the population of Malaysia, it's very difficult for us. It will take years to study 30 million population. So what we will do is we will select a population and we will think that selected population is truly representative of whole population of Malaysia. That is nothing but sampling. So that is our assumption. The next is samples selected randomly would be representative of the population. Randomly means we are giving equal chance to everyone. For example, if there are 40 people in a classroom, I will select randomly one girl and two boys, or two girl or one boy, like that randomly. So I'm giving before I select, I don't know whom I am selecting. So I'm giving equal chance to everyone. During my selection, I can pick anyone. So if you are picking sample through randomly, you are giving equal chance to everyone, and that will represent the true population of that population. This law is great practical significance because it makes possible a considerable reduction of work necessary before any conclusion is drawn regarding a large universe.
Sampling technique. There are two types of sampling technique. One is probability sampling, another one is non-probability sampling. In probability sampling, every individual has an equal chance of being selected, and results can be generalized, sampling error can be estimated, sampling bias can be reduced, and it is time consuming and expensive. To check the analytical and experimental studies, probability sampling is very much needed. Then, coming to non-probability sampling, every individual does not have an equal chance of being selected. Results can't be generalized. Sampling error can't be estimated. Risk of sampling bias is high. It is convenient and easy. It is helpful in generating hypotheses. It is useful in doing pilot studies, but not for the confirmatory studies like analytical and experimental. For these, analytical and experimental, we can use only probability sampling.
Probability samplings are different types, namely random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, multi-stage sampling.
Coming to simple random sampling. Simple random sampling, here each individual is chosen entirely by chance and each member of the population has an equal chance of probability of being selected. Use a table of random numbers to decide which individuals to include and reduce selection bias. Can't be used if the characteristics of the interest is uncommon or unevenly distributed in the population. Need to define a complete sampling frame, and inconvenient if the sampling units are scattered over wide geographical area. Stratified sampling used when the population is heterogeneous. The population is first divided into homogeneous group who all shares the similar characteristics. Sample is taken from each stratum. See, when there is a heterogeneous group, we are converting that heterogeneity to homogeneous by selecting the strata. Then sample is taken from that each stratum. Used when characteristics of the interest varies between the different subgroups. Example, use of mouthwash in school children, strata of private and public school. This is a school This is a school. Then this is a private school and public school. Then from here you are going to select randomly 2, 2, so that this is heterogeneous and this is homogeneous. From this homogeneous you are going to select required samples.
Cluster sampling. In a cluster sample, subgroups of the population are used as the sampling unit rather than individual. The population is divided into subgroups known as clusters, which are well defined. The clusters are randomly selected into the study. The cluster sampling. In a single stage cluster sampling, all members of the chosen cluster are included in the study. In two-stage cluster sampling, a selection of individuals from each cluster are randomly selected in the study. Cluster sampling are more efficient when the study takes place over a wide geographical region. Risk of bias if the chosen cluster are not representative of the population, resulting in increased sampling error. Coming to multi-stage stratified sampling and multi-stage cluster sampling. In the multi-stage sampling, that is stratified sampling, in the first stage, you are making a strata, public school and private school. Then in the second stage, selection of classes in each strata based on age group. Then in the third stage, sampling simple random and stratified random sampling from the classes to achieve sample size. Then useful for national surveys to achieve sample that is representative of the population. So here you have divided public school and private school. In the second stage, each age group, for example, 5-year age group from the public school, 10-year age group from the public school. Again, 5 years from the private school, 10 years from the private school. So if you selected 5-year age group from 100, you want only 20 samples, means again you are going to select that 20 from the private and public school randomly out of 100. Coming to cluster sampling, first stage is select a cluster, north, east, west, south. Then second stage, select a subsample, select district. For example, this is for whole country, only states are selected. Here you are going to select the districts. Then here select the blocks in the third stage. This is like tapering from the states to district, district to blocks. So this is nothing but cluster sampling. Non-probability sampling. Odds of any member being selected for sample cannot be calculated because here you are not doing randomly. It relies on the subjective judgment of the research. It's very cost and time effective. Use it when you have very small population to work with, can't generalize the result, can't calculate the confidence interval or margin of error. Types of non-probability sampling, that is convenience sampling, purposive sampling. In the convenience samplings involve collecting a sample from somewhere convenient to you. Example, your dental school, local mall, also called accidental sampling, opportunity sampling. For example, in our college only you are distributing the questionnaire and collecting the data, means that is convenience sampling. Then purposive samplings, where the researcher chooses a sample based on their knowledge about the population and study itself. The study participants are chosen based on the study purpose. There are several types of purposive sampling like quota sampling and snowball sampling. Quota sampling, where the groups in the sample are proportional to the groups in the population. For example, if I want to select around 300 people from Malaysia, I will select 100 Malay, 100 Tamil, 100 Chinese. I am giving quota, equal quota for everyone. 100 Malay, 100 Tamil, 100 Chinese. So that is nothing but quota sampling. Then snowball sampling, where the research participants recruit other members for the study. This method is particularly useful when participants might be hard to find. For example, a study on working thieves or current heroin users. Heroin is a drug. For example, if I want to do a study on thieves, no thieves will come and tell you that I am thief. But if you catch one thief and if you ask another one, he will show you. So your sample you can multiply by questioning the individual thieves. It's like attraction of each snowballs. So that's what we have. This picture depicts. For example, this is the first thief. He will tell another two thieves' name, and these two thieves will tell another two. Like that, it will multiply, and till the end of, like, till you get your total number of samples. Source of data. There are two types: primary and secondary. Under primary, that is survey experiments. In the survey, prevalence of periodontitis in HIV patient. So your objective is to find the prevalence of periodontitis in HIV patient. Experiments. Effectiveness of mouthwash to reduce periodontitis in HIV patient. See, whatever you collect data for the first time, then it is primary source. That is fresh research data. Then secondary source is like records from the past survey. For example, you already done the survey and you have submitted the report to some authority, or sometimes you submit the report to college. So using that data, if you are doing a study, then the data is called secondary resource, because this is not done freshly now. It's already there and you're going to collect that. Variables. Variables are state condition concepts or event whose value is vary within the population. Example, age, weight, height. So for example, if you are in the previous example I already told you, you are going to measure the prevalence of periodontitis in HIV patient. There the prevalence is variable. That is, periodontitis is variable, whether it is increase or decrease. So there are two types of variables: dependent variables and independent variables. Dependent variables depend on, like, that is dependent on the manipulation or experimental condition. That is to say, they depend on what the object or subject will do in response. Example, effect, outcome, and consequence. Independent variables apply mostly to experimental research, where some variables are manipulated and in this sense independent from the initial reaction pattern, cause, risk factors, and predisposing factors. This is a graph which shows how independent and dependent variable work. For example, the relationship between annual per capita sugar consumption and annual caries incidence in the lower first molar teeth. This is the graph of this. So what is this line called and what is this line? This is a vertical line and this is horizontal. The horizontal line is called x-axis, which always shows independent variables. The vertical line is called y-axis, which always shows dependent variable. So this is the relation. You are getting some linear relation because it's a straight line. That is the formula of y is equal to mx plus c. Y is this axis, m is a constant, and x is this. Why I have put this picture means to show you that x-axis always independent variable will be there, and in the y-axis always dependent variable you have to plot.
So independent versus dependent variables. Independent variables are those that are manipulated, like cause, input, predisposing factors, antecedent, risk factors. Dependent factors or variables are those that change due to manipulation of independent variables, like effects, outcome, consequences, result, and condition or disease. Coming to data types. So the first is, among the data, the first is qualitative data, then quantitative data. Under qualitative, it's divided into nominal and ordinal. Always qualitative data is categorical. Quantitative It's numerical data. Either it is discrete or continuous. Discrete means it's a whole number. Continuous, it is having decimals like 11.1, 11.2. So this is divided into interval and ratio scale. Coming to nominal data, data which can be categorized depending upon whether it belongs to some distinctively different categories. Can't rank or organize the categories. For example, gender you can't rank, race you can't rank it, color, it can only named. So nominal is like just like naming. So how to describe this nominal data? You can describe only through frequencies and proportions. And how to represent this graphically? You can use only bar graph and pie chart. Coming to ordinal data, data which can be categorized depending upon whether it belongs to some distinctly different categories, can rank or organize the categories, but the variation between the ranks are not considered. Example, grades of cancer, pain, quality of life, agreement, that is strongly agree, disagree, neutral, strongly disagree. How to describe this ordinal data? Can be described by frequencies, proportion, mode, median. And how to represent? You can represent through column chart, pie chart. Till now we have discussed about qualitative data. Now we will discuss on quantitative data. That is, first one is interval data. It's numerical data which can be arranged in order, either ascending or descending. The difference between the values can be determined. They don't have true zero. Example, time and temperature. To describe this data, you can use mean, mode, median, and standard deviation. Graphically, we can represent through bar chart, histogram, box plots, then line chart. So another type of quantitative data is ratio. Here, numerical data which can be arranged in order. The difference between the values can be determined and they have true zero, like example, height, weight, DMFT, depth of the periodontal packet. This data can be described using mean, mode, median, standard deviations, then variance. Graphically, this can be represented using bar chart, histogram, box plots, then line chart. So this is the levels of measurement and measurement scale. So the highly valid is ratio data and the least valid is nominal data. But it depends on type of data, whether it is qualitative or quantitative. Branches of statistics like descriptive statistics and information statistics. Coming to descriptive statistics, uses data to provide description of the population either through numerical calculation or graphs. For example, measure of central tendencies, that is mean, mode, and median, that is descriptive. To make inference, estimation, and prediction about the population, you are going to use tests of significance like t-test, chi-square test, ANOVA, that is nothing but inferential statistics. So qualitative and quantitative, that is qualitative is categorical, qualitative is categorical, quantitative is numerical. So under qualitative, you have statistics, frequency, relative frequency, cumulative frequency, and you can represent pie chart and bar chart. But quantitative, that is mean, standard deviation, then discrete data or bar chart, then continuous. If the data is discrete, under quantitative, you are using bar chart.
Then if data is continuous, you are going to use histogram, box plots, stem and leaf plots. That we will discuss later. Data visualization. Immediate depiction of differences and patterns can be visualized without having to analyze numbers. Quick assessment to give an intuitive feeling about data. Data visualization can be through tables or graphs. In the tables should be clear and concise. Each row and column must be labeled clearly. The unit of measurement must be indicated. Display totals usually in the last row. Ensure that the percentage add up to 100. Legends to explain the source of data and abbreviation used. But in the graphs, highly effective in communicating the information, helps organizing data in a pattern that can be seen instantly. Excellent way to familiarize with data. Good way to spot unexpected patterns. However, not good way to show precise information. For example, this is a table showing relative frequency of cumulative relative frequency. Discrete data. Discrete means what type of data representation you have to use. Go back and check the previous slide. Ethnicity, Malay, Chinese, Indian, others total. Frequency, there are 478 Malay, 65 Chinese. Relative frequency of 79.5, 10.5 and 8.5. Out of 100, 79.5 are Malay, then 10.5, 10.8 is Chinese, 8.5 Indians. Like that, the relative frequency. Then cumulative. Actually, this is not needed at this time because you will have confusion. These three is enough. Coming to stem and leaf plot. It's a table where each data value is split into stem, the first digit or digits, and a leaf, usually the last digit. Like in this example, if the sample is having 15, so this 1 come to the stem and this 5 goes to the leaf. For example, this 16, this 1 will come to the stem and 6 will go to here, the leaf. So the leaf will have the leaf's number may increase, but stem will be always 1. For example, this 21, the 2 will come here, the 1 will go here. In this 23, this 2 will come here and 3 will go here. But this number will be constant. Only if the numbers is between 20 to 29, then that 1, 3, 3, 6 will go to leaf. Others will go to stem. What is the use of stem and leaf? Stems are class intervals. This is stem. This is leaf. Leaves are strings of values within each class interval and depicts a histogram laid on its side. They reflect the values of observation from which we know the size of the frequencies. So this is stem, the first, this is stem and this is leaf. Okay, I will just tilt that stem and leaf. You will get something like this. This is nothing but normal curve. That is, it's tapering on both ends. Here also it's tapering and here also tapering. Here you can see maximum values. These are maximum values. Coming to graphs, there are many kinds of graphs like bar graph, pie chart, histogram, frequency polygon, cumulative frequency polygon, stem and leaf, then box and whisker, then scatter graphs. Bar graphs. Best for display of nominal and ordinal data or discrete data. Bars are separated from each other. You can see these two graphs are separated from these two. Then bars are, the x-axis is categories. This is single, married, diverse. These are different types of independent variables or categories. Then the y-axis is the frequency. Then histogram. Here there is no gap. It's continuous. So use it for visualization of continuous data. Because the data are not discrete, the parts in the graphs are stacked together. Shape, distribution of data among the groups, spread variability of the data, center of the data will have more number of samples. Then x-axis is class boundaries, y-axis is frequency of the observations. Frequency polygon. This is a type of histogram only. If you connect the tip of each bar, you will get a line. That's nothing but frequency polygon. Come to pie chart. The whole chart is 360-degree. Again, you will divide each numbers with 360 and the percentage you will label with different colors. It's a circle statistical graph which is divided into slices to illustrate numerical proportion in relative frequencies. Best for display of categorical data. Line graph. For example, this is the table showing like in year 1960 maternal maternity rate was 50. In 1970 maternal mortality rate was 45. 1980 MMR, that is maternal mortality rate, was 26. In 1990 is 15. 2012. So I will just plot this. This is independent, this is dependent. So dependent will go to y-axis, independent will come to x-axis. So I am plotting. First in 1960 it was 50. So in 1960 it was 50. In 1970 it was 45. Somewhere here it's 45. In 1980 it's somewhere 26. In 1990 it's 15. In 2000 it's 12. So this is just connect the line dots. So you'll get some line. That is nothing but line graph. This will show the trend. For example, in 1960 50 and in 2000 it is 12. That means from 1960 to 2000 it's a declining trend. Box and whisker plot. This display median and quartile statistics, whether data is symmetric positively or negatively skewed depending on length of horizontal bar. So if you divide the data from 1 to 100, you can find the lower extreme data and lower quartile data, then median and upper quartile and upper extreme. So height of students. So somewhere here the lower extreme, somewhere here the lower quartile, somewhere here it's the median. So this is upper quartile, then upper extreme. This is scatter plots. It represents value obtained for two different variables, one plotted on x-axis and other on y-axis using dots. It shows the correlation between that two values, that is independent and dependent values. X is independent, y is dependent. Coming to the picture 1 here, this shows linear relation. Linear and its positive correlation. This is a perfect positive correlation because here many dots are present and it's showing a typical positive relation. And this is a low positive correlation and this is no relation.
Similarly, this one is negative correlation because it's going in the opposite direction, and it is low negative correlation. This is high negative correlation because dots are almost arranged closely, and this is linearly arranged negative correlation because dots are arranged in this direction, and it is perfect negative correlation. Statistical averages. The word average implies a value, the distribution around which the order values are distributed. It gives a mental picture of central value. There are several kinds of averages like arithmetic mean, median, and mode. This is a typing error. I have put 3 here. You just delete that. The mean. The arithmetic mean is widely used in statistical calculation. It is sometimes simply called mean. To obtain the mean, individual observations are first added together and then divided by the number of observations. The mean is calculated thus. For example, the diastolic blood pressure of 10 individuals was 83, 75, 81, 79, 71, 95, 75, 77, then 84 and 90. The total is 810. The mean is 810 divided by 10, which is 81.0. Here you can't find 81.0 here, but the mean is 81. The advantages of the mean are that it is easy to calculate and understand. The disadvantages is sometimes it may be unduly influenced by abnormal values in distributions. The median is an average of different kind which does not depend upon the total and number of items. To obtain the median, the data is first arranged in ascending or descending order like this. This is the data of blood pressure, diastolic, and you are arranging ascending or descending order. Then you are selecting the center 2. Then you are dividing by 2. So you will get 80. Actually 80 you won't find in the data, but the median is 80. The relative merits of median and mean may be examined from the following example. For example, the income of 7 people per day in rupees was as follows. The first value is 5, then another 5, another 5, 7, 10, 20 and 102. So the total is 154. The mean is 154 divided by by 7, which is around 22, and the median is 7, which is the value of the middle observation. In this example, the income of the 7th individual is 102 has seriously affected the mean, whereas it has not affected the median. In an example of this kind, median is more nearer to the truth and therefore more representative of than the mean. Coming to mode, the mode is commonly occurring value in distribution of data. It is the most frequent item or the most fashionable value in series of observation. For example, the diastolic blood pressure of 20 individuals. This is the list. Normal distribution. For example, we already know what is stem and leaf. This is stem and this is leaf. I will just tilt that normal distribution, that is stem and leaf. You will get like this. So based on this we can define the normal distribution are symmetric around their mean. This is the mean and this is symmetric around the mean. Then the mean median mode of the normal distribution.
that is central tendencies, mean, median, mode. Mean means sum divided by total number of sample. Median means the center 2 divided by number of samples. That is selected sample. If you selected 2 only, then denominator is 2. Mode means commonly occurring term. That is central tendencies. Then area under the normal curve is 1. The whole area is 1. The normal distribution are dense in the center because number of samples are more and less in the tails. Here it's less. These are the characteristics of normal distribution. It is useful to note at this stage that in normal curve, the area between one standard deviation on either side of the mean, that is number plus or minus one standard deviation, will include approximately 68%. For example, here, this area, that is mean plus or minus one standard deviation, have 68% of area. If the mean plus or minus 2 standard deviation will have 95%. Mean plus or minus 3 standard deviation, that is from here to here, it is a 99%. Normal distribution or normal curve is an important concept in statistical theory. Let us suppose we collect the height of very large number of people and make frequency distribution with narrow class interval. We are likely to get smooth, symmetrical. Such curve is called normal distribution curve. The shape of the curve will depend upon the mean and standard deviation, which in turn will depend upon the number and nature of observation it follows. Therefore, there will be infinite number of normal curves. So, consider this is a normal curve. Suppose we are considering the 95% confidence limit, that is mean plus or minus 2SD. When we say this, we mean that 95% of the area of the normal curve, and hence 95% of the values in the distribution will be included between mean limits of mean plus or minus 2SD. Therefore, the probability of the reading falling outside the 95% confidence limit will be 1 in 20, that is p is equal to 0.05. I am repeating, that is limits is 1 in 20, that is 1 divided by 20, which will comes around 0.05. Coming to skewedness, this is an ideal normal curve and this is negative skewed. Here we have to check the tail to decide whether it is negative or positive. If this tail is towards y and the peak is away from y, then it is negatively skewed. And this tail away from y, this is y and it's away from y, then it is positively skewed. I am again repeating, if this tail is towards y, it's negatively skewed. If the tail is away from, this is the tail and away from y-axis, then it is positively skewed. And one more difference is, in the negatively skewed, you can see mode here, median here, mean here. In positively skewed, you can see mode here, median here, and mean. Kurtosis. Kurtosis is the coefficient of kurtosis is a measure for the degree of tiredness in the variable distribution. For example, in this picture, you can see the tiredness is very thin, so it is called platykartic. This is a normal curve, so it's have average tired. So this is mesokartic. The tailed is average. This is leptokartic distribution where it's showing excess tiredness. This is very gradual steeping, but this is sudden.
So this one is called leptokurtic, that is excess kurtosis greater than 0 to greater than 3. This is excess kurtosis less than 0 to less than 3. The second part will continue in the next class. Thank you.